everyone understands the power of design and principle. Everyone has seen it in some way or form, especially this generation of people who have grown up. I mean, we've seen citizen experiences much better. We've seen transport experiences much better. I mean, I still remember I used to go book a ticket on the railway platform in a railway reservation. Now you do it in IRCTC. Now, how painful is it is a different story, but still much easier. So, but many companies don't make that transition. So the project that I'm going to talk today is a project that again came to us through a serendipitous process, but then it was a process where we truly pushed the rigor of driving design business through design. So I'll tell a lot of stories and I'll kind of share that case study. But while I share that case study, I'll talk a lot about what was the challenges that we had to deal with. It was not always a straightforward track to make it work. So the case study is today for a company called Techion, which was founded by the first CIO of Tesla. So if many people who understand Tesla or any closed loop ecosystem, they build great experiences because they own every variable in that ecosystem. But then how do you bring that same consistency and same experience quality to a fairly unstructured ecosystem? That kind of was the design problem or the business problem. And then the leadership wanted to lead it with experience first. And how did we engage and how did we deliver that process is kind of where the story is or where the case study is. So we're going to talk about reimagining automotive retail, right? A problem that I'll give you a context because many people here are not in America, where dealerships work a little differently, but I'll just give you a set of how the dealerships work here, and then we'll go into a vision. Dealerships in America are how the business model works is you have a OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturer, the car manufacturer. This is a GE or a Ford, or they have the cars, they manufacture the cars. They do not direct sell the cars. The big difference, that's a big disruption that Tesla did. So they sell the cars through a dealership network. So they actually sell the car to the dealer can put a markup, the dealer owns the customer relationship, and then they talk to the customer and then sell the car to the customer and then possibly also get maintenance around the customer. The OEM is not in that picture. The OEM has kind of brought a intermediary in this case called a dealer. And then the customer also can go to the same dealer or can go to any dealer, right? So there is actually, if you look at the unstructured part of this, someone manufactures the car, someone sells the car, someone services the car, the customer has flexibility to go to the dealer or someone else. So there is a lot of that flexibility there. And in that, how do you create a great experience? How do you build an experience that kind of brings the whole ecosystem together is a fundamental challenge. And that's what the challenge is now. From a Tesla's perspective, they are the OEM, they have the dealerships, they own the customers, so they can create an experience where literally you're driving cross country and a part of your car is kind of wearing down. It send a note to Tesla. Tesla will send you a text saying that, hey, go down to this particular dealership, the part is ready and it is 40 miles from where you are. Everything is seamless, and that experience works really well because of that. The same way as with Apple, where you kind of build an ecosystem. But how do you do that in an unstructured context? So that was the business problem that Techion decided to go at. And that's when they started working with us. I'll share with you now a vision. So when we started working on that, we said, what is this vision going to look like? What will happen? What will change in the dealership if we were to kind of come together? So that's the first point I wanted to share. If you don't have a vision, you're not going anywhere. Right. And that's just outright, I'm going to tell you this. If any leader doesn't have a vision, which is why I think when you start even looking at political systems, if the leader has a vision, at least the country is going somewhere. Good or bad is a different story. The same here is, so I'm going to depict a vision that we initially kind of created. The vision is, let's say you are sitting at your home and you get a notification on your phone saying that, hey, your brake pad needs to be changed and you have an appointment at the dealership. So you kind of drive down to the dealership. As soon as you drive down to the dealership, the service advisor, the person who's checking you in, is ready because they have a notification. There's a sensor in the periphery of the dealership that knows that Jim actually drove in. And as soon as Jim drives in, Sam is ready with Sam, the service advisor, is ready with the iPad with all the information all pulled in. He kind of quickly checks that, hey, Jim's here for a brake pad change, which is less than 30 minutes. The credit card is in there. The driver's license is in there. And he checks him in. And as soon as the check-in process, he discusses what the thing is. It explains that it's a 30-minute procedure. Unfortunately, because of regulations, there's a wet signature that is needed. So effectively, Jim kind of signs quickly on the kiosk. A picture is taken of Jim, and then this deal is now settled. Now, because it's a 30-minute job, Jim is waiting in the coffee, in the lounge. And while he's waiting in the lounge, he's seeing the news, and he's also seeing advertisement that's focused for Jim, because the location knows who all are sitting in the lounge. And also on the side, you can see what the status of your car, what's happening with your car, and how far are you with your maintenance. In between, Jim gets a notification saying that, hey, there is actually a recall on the car. They have to fix this issue. And as soon as Jim gets that note, he realizes that, hey, now I have an appointment. It's no more a 30-minute thing. It's a 3-hour process. So now what do I do? But right in that flow, the notification like, hey, we can give you a loaner car. You can take a car and then go head out. But in order to take a loaner car, you effectively need your driver's license and your insurance. But we already have that from the last time that you were here. Or if not, you can just quickly take a picture, and then we'll be able to kind of use that. And now that I have a loaner car, the big problem is like, where do I pick up the keys, which is now already ready in front of the reception. The reception knows that Jim is going to come in, and here's the key. Where is the car with this big parking lot of many cars? So now it actually tells me where the car is to kind of go and find the car. So now I find the car and I drive by, I do my thing, and I'm sitting at home now. I'm playing around. 3 hours later, I get a quick notification saying, hey, my car is ready. In one click, I just pay everything in one shot, and it's all pre-built in my phone. I go back, I pick my car, or even better, I mean, we also were looking at a scenario where what if, the car came to your home, it was driven to your home by one of the, dealership staff. So there's now when you start thinking about this was the vision we set that we wanted to kind of deliver. And this was the experience we wanted to do, because and in this case, when you start thinking about this, it's not as simple as it sounds. For this to work, a lot of different parts have to come together, which is the second part. So the first part I kind of wanted to share was having a clear vision. The second part was having a systemic understanding of what goes in to make that vision. So we realized very quickly that multiple departments have to come together, multiple systems have to come together, and then finally the users and the modes of how they interact come together. Now, I'll let you guys kind of think about it a bit more. My assumption is very strongly is that there's a lot of designers on this call today. For this to happen, right, most designers today sit down and say, I am a designer. So they focus on the modality, like the iPad or the screen and so on and so forth. But if you really think about it, it is the experience which drives the system, which drives the users, that drives the interaction. Not the other way around, that the interaction happens and then we figure out which user is going to use it. And that is a fundamental shift, again, that many companies, again, screw it up here. So again, the first thing I said is vision, lack of vision. Second thing is understanding how that system comes together to make that vision happen. Given that UXReactor has always had an eclectic group of talent. So today, when we have 60 different consultants across 3 continents, we are represented by 22 different educational disciplines. So we have all the way from fashion designers, graphic designers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers. And the reason why we do that is because we want people who understand and can get comfortable with that aspect. Now, again, many organizations are not set up that way. So which is why I think it's also very hard to kind of say the system, and we go back to a comfort zone of saying, oh, what does the screen need to look like? So screen is a result. Screen is not the start. So just again, another key thing. So when we started thinking through this, but then we also needed to go back very clearly, understand how these users were interacting with these systems. The systems were second. So we spent so much time doing user research. Now, from the case study standpoint, as lovely as it looks like, Techion is a very successful company today. When the first time we started talking to them and we said we need to do user research, they said, nope, they will not do any research. Users don't know what they want. And we said, no, that's not the way it's going to work. And in fact, it was an exact decision on my end where we said, we will do user research even if they don't pay us for it. It's a bad business decision, but it was a good ethical decision. So we said so all the research you see here was done for free for them. And because that was the right thing to do, we were blindly designing screens. And then we said, no, we're going to start doing research. We're going to observe. We're going to talk. Even till date, I don't think they have a researcher in the US. And the factor is that, because when you come from the Tesla school of thought, which is where they came from, which is Elon's school of thought, these enigmas have a vision and then they will just push their vision through. Now, it's good that they have a good vision, whether it's a Steve Jobs or whether that's a Elon Musk. But the problem is that's not sustainable. As I said, the how, when it comes to it, doesn't mean that Elon has the idea or Steve has the idea and that's how it works. If you want to make it sustainable, follow the users. Follow the users every time. The users will tell you what's their pain, their understanding of the pain, and then you kind of elaborate on that. So again, interestingly, to unravel that complexity, we spent a lot of time talking to users. This engagement was a little over 2.5 years for us. It started out with like, hey, we're going to try you out, and if it doesn't work, we'll fire you in 3 weeks in the trial thing, and then ended up as a 2.5 year process of building a backbone for this organization. But then what was important is when you start looking at all of this, we actually played in the ecosystem level. In many people who work in the engineering teams, there's a role called the technical architect. A technical architect who's thinking about how that system is going to work architecturally, from a technical perspective. The question that we asked ourselves is, what's the equivalent of that in an experience level? What is the architecture from a user's perspective that they are looking at? And this was, again, another big factor of putting systems thinking into place. So first is understand, have a clear vision of where you're going. Second is understand all the moving parts of the system. Third is having your own systemic architecture of how that will play out for different users. And from the user's perspective, how does the user think about it? They don't think about it like, hey, I buy my car, and that's a different system. Then I go to the servicing, it's a different system. Or when I call customer service, it's a different system. They think about all as the same thing. When they buy the car, they're feeling the same passion that I gave you so much money in servicing for the last 5-10 years. Why the hell are you not cutting me a slack and giving me a discount compared to everyone else who's kind of coming in? Because the systems are not connected. But from the user perspective, they believe that experience should work. The same way as, you fly in an airline, you expect that, if you're flying with that airline 10 times, you expect that the 11th time you at least get some upgrade or some at least, one-on-one conversation on like, hey, Satyam, you're doing, thanks for flying with us. But this is, again, a critical part of building the system architecture together. A lot of times these words of architecture, system thinking do not get brought up in the experience world, because we are so caught up in the UI cycle and maybe the UX to some extent. So again, a key thing to kind of for us to be aware. Overall, when you start looking at every user in the system, so we had different users. We actually defined a journey for every user. What does the SAM, the service advisor journey look like? What are the different moving parts? How does they actually work? What are the pain points? How are we kind of measuring for them? Because our intention is to make SAM highly effective. And through SAM being effective, the business becomes effective. But then SAM is only one of the many users. SAM is not the only user, right? So we actually had to kind of really build a rigor around every user in the system. Now, what you notice here is it's very hard to do this if you're not highly convicted to it, because of the reason that it takes effort. And many people don't know that this is the right way of doing it. Many organizations don't know this is the right way of doing it. So while it seems easy in hindsight, it's not as simple. That's why I said the how is actually very important to get to simplicity, get to the strategic focus. And finally, I think when you look at it, I'll just play a video for you, a video that actually will tell you whether what we did was successful or not. And let's kind of look at it from that perspective now. So we set up a vision, we understood the system, we cleaned up the system, and we designed. Now, again, in this whole process, I'm not showing you any screens. because screens are a table stake. Things our interactions are table stakes for all of us as designers. I think that's a no-brainer. But then what is the experience that we're trying to give to people? So let me see if I can play this.
What I love about the partnership with Techion is the transparency.
When you build something that customers like, they want, that makes their life easier, you are actually working on a construct that, you have a very viable business problem, that a business solution. And that is what I think we were trying to go for. And that's what we did. Now, at the same time, I must tell you, winning an Olympic medal is not easy. This was one of the most stressful engagements we ever worked on, because we were pushing the boundaries consistently, pushing the boundaries of how they process, of what we were doing, of the ambiguity we were dealing with. So I would just say that, it doesn't have just, it's an awesome profession that we all are in. There's a lot of things procedurally that we need to adjust. But more importantly, I think the single biggest catalyst was the passion of saying that we will do it right, and otherwise we'll not do it at all. And I think that is the secret of actually building a great experience and building a great product through that experience. So with that, I would actually I'm done with my presentation side. There's a lot more techniques that procedurally that we have kind of put out together in the book. So if those of you don't have it, I strongly would encourage you to go get it.